Welcome to the Brian Murray Show, a real estate show, New Jersey style. Today's discussion point is attorney review. What it is, what it means for the buyer, the seller, and the bidder. So attorney review is a period after you sign the contract, but before you're committed to the other party. New Jersey does things completely different than the rest of the world, where when you make an offer that gets accepted, it means that you've done a contract and both the buyer and seller have signed the contract, and at that point it goes to the attorneys to make any changes or corrections or negotiations to the contract. That's the attorney review period. Once you're out of review, that means that you've signed off on all the changes, and so has the other party, buyer and seller signed off on them, and then both parties are then committed. There are a couple of rules around that if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to go through, but in general, that's the way it works. It usually takes anywhere from a day to a week to get through all the changes, depending on how motivated the parties are, how complex the changes are, and how available the attorneys are. But so during that time, either party, while you're in review before you sign the rider, either party can walk away, no questions asked, no penalty. So that means a buyer can walk away, a seller can walk away. Buyers, you should be concerned that in a hot market, that somebody else can come in, and that maybe you were the only person bidding on a home, and then you start attorney review, and maybe you get a little discount on the home, who knows. Another party does come in, and now all of a sudden there's a second bidder, and now your negotiation point is much weaker. So therefore, it might cost you more money because all of a sudden you delayed in your attorney review, somebody else came in. In a buyer's market, a seller has to really be concerned that, hey, you started down this road, and if it's taking you too long to come to a negotiation point, that buyer's out there looking at other homes, that buyer gets cold feet, they walk away. So there's risk on both sides, which is why if a buyer wants a home and a seller wants to sell the home, my recommendation is you get local attorneys, use your realtor's recommendations, get local attorneys who work with each other. It makes the process go smoother, faster. Trust me, you bring in somebody from the outside, it goes slower, it's more difficult, it's more likely that the deal will end up falling apart in attorney review. And then the last part of this whole equation is the outside bidder. So now you have a buyer and a seller that are in attorney review. They've agreed on the price, and they've agreed on the down payment, they've agreed on the closing date in principle, and now they're working out the details. And it's taking a little bit longer than maybe each party would want for whatever reasons. And now another bidder comes into the process. So now sometimes that will result in the first buyer losing the property, and sometimes it won't. But here's the thing, my big piece of advice for that outside bidder, and this is where a lot of agents make mistakes, is that they will come in. Now, once a buyer and a seller are in attorney review, it's sort of like they're engaged to each other. They're not quite married, but they are engaged. And it takes a lot for one party to break off that engagement. An outside bidder that comes in, they better be much stronger and much more aggressive with their offer than they would have been had they been the only person. And knowing that the other person is engaged, they should be extremely aggressive because they really only have one shot at it. If you as the outside bidder say, well, I'll come in with a lower bid, and then if they don't accept it, I will up my bid, you've lost out. You get one shot at it. By then, honestly, the seller's like, look, they're not that serious. They came in they knew that we were engaged, and they didn't really bring their best, and now they want to keep upping it. There's just too much risk to the seller at that point. So if you're a buyer, you want to hustle up in attorney review. If you're a seller, you want to hustle up. And if you're an outside bidder, you better come in strong, you better come in hard, you better have a good agent that knows how to help you manage that process. This has been today's discussion point. Today's hot topic are mortgage rates. What do they mean to you, and how to take advantage of them beyond just the simple refi. So today's mortgage rates are at an all-time low. Let me repeat that. Today's mortgage rates are at an all-time low. It's not a 2-year low or a 3-year low or a 5-year low or, hey, 10-year low. All-time low. I have heard of people getting a 30-year fixed mortgage at as low as 2.75%. It is incredible. If you're not taking advantage of having a refi or buying a property where you can get a 30-year fixed at an incredibly low rate, you are missing an opportunity. It's an all-time low. This is like when you want to buy low and sell high, this is the buy low piece right here. Now, a 1% increase in the interest rate reduces your purchasing power by 10%. So imagine a 2.75% to a 3.75%. 3.75% is still great. I would know lots of people who would sign up for that. I'd sign up for that. I have lots of mortgages that are way higher than 3.75%. Now, that 1% increase from an all-time low is very likely to happen. So that will reduce your purchasing power by 10%. Think about that for a second, so that $800,000 home that you might want reduces your purchasing power to purchase a $720,000 home. The difference between the $720,000 home and an $800,000 home can be several hundred square feet within the home. It can be the difference between getting the location you want. It can be the difference between being in an elevator building with a parking space and not. That's the difference that you're losing by not moving forward with the all-time lows. I want to put that in real context for you. And then the third piece of this whole is that most of the time when I'm talking and advising my clients, I'm talking to them and saying, hey, you probably want to think about a 5-1 arm, a 7-1 arm, because you might not, one, you might not be in the property that long, you might sell it, and two, you might refi it. Well, at an all-time low, you're not refining. You're simply not doing it. I have one property that I have at 3.5% on a 30-year. I'm taking that one to my grave. That to me was the best, and now I'm looking at 2.75. But again, they have to be your primary residence. So take the 30-year. The difference between the 30 and the ARM is almost negligible these days. Take the 30-year. Nobody might be telling you to do that, because most of the time I'm telling you to take an ARM. This time I'm telling you, take the 30-year, take the all-time low, stretch a little bit on the property, because with the cost of the carry at this, you'll be thanking yourself in 2, 3, 5, 7 years from now, or when you go to rent it out in 5, 7, 10 years from now, and keeping that 2.75, 3% rate. It's just amazing. Even at 3.5, it's still amazing. This has been today's hot topic about mortgage rates. The good, the bad, the ugly. The good, we touched on this a little bit. Buy low. Everybody wants to buy low and sell high. Well, this is the time to buy low. Interest rates are historically low. Prices have not quite caught up to the fact that we have very little inventory. We have lots of buyers, so we have little supply, lots of demand, and low interest rates. I think that some of the external factors like the coronavirus is kind of suppressing a little of about the real market, because people are just kind of waiting, to see how this all plays out. But this is when you get to buy low. When other people are sitting on the sidelines, this is when you buy low. By the time everybody else jumps back in, it's not low anymore. So that's the good. You have an opportunity to buy low. The bad is that several of the large banks right now, they're limiting your refinance opportunities. We just talked about low mortgage rates. That's if you can get them. A lot of the banks are now 50, 60 days behind in their refi. They're taking too many. They don't have enough capacity with agents, with back-end processors. So, you might want to refi and you just can't, because honestly, everybody is swamped on that. So that's bad that, you know, you want to do something and you can't take advantage of it. And then the ugly. The ugly are these fear-mongering social posts that I'm seeing, and they're by well-intentioned, well-meaning people on, you know, on social media that are talking about, well, this is a letter I got from some, infectious disease person, or let me tell you my story about how I had a cold and I tried to get a test and I couldn't get one for 3 weeks and they sent me to 7 hospitals and here and there. And it's like, okay, well, take everything that you read on social media, whether it's about the coronavirus or anything else, with a grain of salt. It's like, really do your research, understand who the people are that are talking about this, when they posted it. Some of those posts could be a month ago when the situation was radically different than it is today. And you also have to look at it. Look, sometimes people are talking from their perspective and they only see their one little piece of the giant puzzle. They see what's happening right to them and in that particular moment, and not what the larger game plan is and what the larger tactical plan is. So there's a lot of fear going on out there in social media. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, but I would say, take a deep breath and really do your research to decide whether or not, Joe from Cincinnati's post is something that should cause you to pack up and move to the mountains. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today's inspiration comes from something that we were talking about with Attorney Review, that you really want to be moving forward very quickly. It says, you may delay, but time will not. And lost time is never found again. And sometimes when you lose a property, it's never found again. So that's the inspiration, is don't delay, because you're just going to lose that time and it's never going to come back again. This has been the Brian Murray Show. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, you can follow me on social media. Please do like me, follow me. You can watch all of the previous episodes on themurraypropertygroup.com. I do welcome your opinion and your feedback. And if there's anything that you disagreed with, reach out to me directly and I'll show you why you're wrong.